Alright, hello everybody, welcome back to 7 Days. We are back with the LizLabz, and today we're going to be talking zombies. Finally, it's about time, right? We're finally going to get into the point of the whole 7 days, is the zombie apocalypse itself. I have got our guys lined up here for your inspection. We've got all of our ladies over here, aside for Big Mama, who is over here for a particular reason. We'll get back to her. As you can hear right now, if Editing Liz doesn't mind amping the volume, that sound that you're hearing playing right now is a sound that is triggered whenever there's more than one zombie that is actively seeking you. Not that there's just zombies in the area, but that they are aggroed in some way towards you, whether they heard you, saw you, or whatever. In this case, a lot of these guys know exactly where I'm at because they were pointed towards me whenever I set them down, so I'm getting the noise. So, from here on out, we're just going to ignore that. First off, there's one thing to understand about all of these zombies. They come in 3 different flavors of absolutely awesome and bad at the same time. We have our regular zombies. We'll just go ahead and use Arlene here, which I call the Aussie waifu. She is our regular, everyday, run-of-the-mill zombie. She will typically be walking unless you have changed her normal stats during the day, and her eyes are absolutely, well, white. She's just a normal, everyday zombie, kind of creepy. Then we have got our ferals, which have got the glowing eyeballs and are quite a bit faster, assuming you have not messed around with your stats. And then we have our irradiated zombie right here, and she has got a green hue about her. She will slowly heal if damaged. Heals pretty fast. Now, she kept 5 hit points worth of damage, so it'll be able to kill them even if you don't have the ability to do permanent damage to them. There is the overwhelming force thing that you can use, which is do a ton of damage all at one time in order to counteract her ability to heal, or use a rad remover, which is a modifier that can go into one of your weapons, but we'll talk more about that whenever we talk weapons. Then we have got Darlene, we've got the lab worker, we've got Marlene, we have got the nurse, and then we have got party girl. So we've got Karen, we've got lab lady, and I've actually started calling her May. Then we've got the nurse, which I just saw, I call her hello nurse, and I call her Marilyn. So these are all the ladies. Now, there is something to understand about all of the ladies of 7 Days is they've got a little bit faster speed. It could wind up catching you off guard, so do not take them lightly. They've got several different features going on with them. Say, for instance, our dangly armed lab worker. Kind of crazy. Ugh. And then our dangly eyed May. It's kind of gross, yeah. And then, of course, we've got the blood dripping all the time from our lab worker, and our jizzle physics coming from our party girl. We're going to move on from that so that we don't get demonetized. And then we have most of our dudes aside from one of our ladies, and I'll get to her in, well, 2 of our ladies. I'll get to them in just a second. We have got our basic guy zombies. Now, from back to front, they are the more difficult of the zombies to deal with, but they have no armor on them. They're pretty interesting kill, and they have the same features as these other guys right here. We've got our regular feral and our radiated on all of these guys right here. They each have that in various forms, and each of those, of course, have more health as far as the ferals, and then more health and the ability to regenerate whenever it comes to the irradiated. So definitely keep an eye out for these guys. We could definitely find these guys in all of our offices. You'll find a couple of these guys in some of the schools. We'll see these guys wandering around the wasteland. All of these guys are really awesome. So as you can see, if I was to set out several of the same zombie, they do have a slight varying degree. Here, let's do this. Darlene's, we've got 5, 538, 473, 631, 624, and 545. Every single time a zombie spawns in, there is not a select amount of health. They have a health pool between this, and that is what the zombie will spawn in with. And then, over here, we have got our armored bad guys. You hear that? It sounds like he's just smacked metal. You know, I'm not going to sit here and just punch you, even though that would be entertaining. You don't actually hear it with him, but he seems armored whenever you try to damage him. So just be careful, like he's got an additional amount of defense, I would say, but not necessarily armored like he is, and he definitely is. And this guy, that was an accidental kill. This guy and this guy are basically the same thing. They've got an additional amount of defense, and I should not have been able to, on level 1, been able to kill that guy. Okay, so he has got 458, 458. This guy has got remarkably less damage than our lumberjack. And this guy not only has like a good health pool, but he is also armored, and so is he. Now, these guys, as far as I know, unless there's something weird going on with them, you should never hear an armor sound on these guys. And then we've got these guys over here, which are the fluffies. You could technically take this guy and stick them in this list along with these bad guys because they have a high defense. It takes a lot to get past all of the armor and fluffiness of these particular characters in order to kill them. And of course, I'm just pushing them all over the place. Here, 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 here. There we go. We got the bowler. We've got the... I have an itchy trigger finger. We've got the bowler, we've got the Hawaiian, and we've got Big Mama. They are all very fluffy, and they take a bit of an extra beating to kill them. And then we've got all of our... I don't know. Mo doesn't really fit in this category, but he doesn't exactly fit in this category either. He probably more fits over here with these guys, but he's got a little bit of an extra defense from what I've noticed. And then these guys are all of our utility workers, and they really don't have like an extra defense, if I'm not mistaken. Occasionally, if you hit him in the right spot because of his head, he is a bit armored. He occasionally makes the sound, I guess, in case you hit his head. But these guys are all of our utility workers. Aside from all those guys, then we get over here to our slightly more special characters. We have got our spider characters. We've got our regular, our feral. His eyes are definitely glowing and he's very, very creepy. Very creepy. And then we have the irradiated version of those. That's a whole lot of hit points. These guys bounce around, will bounce towards your face. Typically, the way this zombie works is it will jump towards you. One fake jump is what I call it. And then it will actually launch itself at you as long as you're within a few blocks. 4 is approximately. The ferals, I think, not the ferals, but the irradiateds, I think they can go up to 8 blocks away from you. So be very careful whenever you get stuck in a room with those guys. They will basically face hug you if you're not careful. Not really, they don't actually face hug you, it's just funny to say. And then we've got our burnt biome guys. You'll see these guys a whole lot in the burnt biome or any place explosives have happened or anything else like that. You'll see these guys and they come in 3 varieties of flavors as well. We've got our regular, our feral right here, which is actually a very cool looking feral. Not only does his eyes glow, but he is actually on fire. And then of course our irradiated version of him. Okay, and then we've got our balloon boy is what we call him. He's actually considered a mutated. We've got our regular, our radiated, not our radiated, but our feral and our irradiated. And the only way you could tell these two guys apart, the one warning that this guy is going to be a whole lot faster other than the fact that he just pelts towards you after spraying the entire ground around him with green ooze. And then of course we've got our irradiated version of him. And then we have got our whites, which is basically just I would say kind of a boss bad guy. He is an elevated bad guy. You will usually only see him in a boss area or something like that. And he's pretty fast. He is pretty mean. There's only 2 versions of him. He's only feral or irradiated. You will never find a version of him where he's just walking around. It's not going to happen. He's always tippity-tappy and really, really fast. And of course, there's an irradiated version of him. So big, mean bad guys. Next, we have another special zombie, which is the cop zombie. These ones obviously found inside cop areas, roaming the wastelands, roaming all over the world. Heck, you might see one of these guys on day 1 even. I have seen a feral version of him on day 1. They are kind of like these guys in their defense as far as they could take a punching, but they also have something else they can do. As long as they have line of sight of you, they can projectile vomit at you with an irradiation that can cause anything from infections to broken arms and legs, all kinds of nastiness. And it has the added bonus, if you get to with a certain amount of hit points, you can hear a heartbeat. You hear it? And and that can happen. So if you're not careful, if you don't actually manage to kill them fast enough, if you can't do enough damage, there is a bit of an issue of them exploding and possibly damaging blocks that are around you, taking a floor out from underneath you. Any number of things can happen, and in this particular case, as far as a Horde Knight, you better be very, very careful that it doesn't accidentally hit the button of your demo. That spit basically goes a long way away, and can damage blocks, people, the whole 9 yards. So one of the biggest things is to block line of sight for this guy. And also with this particular zombie, because it has a special ability, the way to stop it is to damage it. So if you are far away from the zombie and you have a projectile you definitely can hit it with, like shoot it one time right before it does the animation of spitting, it will stop it from spitting and it will continue to run towards you. And typically it will only work for a half to a full block worth of density on a block for it to stop this guy from spitting. So if you walk into a building and you can't immediately run up on this guy to stop him from spitting, I would say back up through a doorway and go off to the side so that the doorway frame catches the spit instead of your face. We will actually test that a whole lot more when I get into zombie pathing and everything like that, but just understand that that's what that zombie does. Right now, let's go ahead and talk about our demo, which is our big, beefy zombie that you definitely don't want to see in your horde base. The reason why is kind of obvious. You see the damage here that exists on this ground. Understand that terrain takes less damage from a demo than a player-made block. So he just took out all of these blocks around it. Now, this terrain is not as much health points as you would have on, say, a concrete block or something, but that's the amount of damage it will do to a specific block or blocks around it. And that includes not just the ground, it includes the wall, the blocks above it, the whole 9 yards. So whenever you're building your horde base, if one of these guys goes off, there's a bit of a problem. Now, as you can see, he's got a pretty decent sized health pool. It's not huge, but it's pretty decent size. And he is armored. So you can definitely hear it. The way of setting him off is actually to trigger that thing right there on his shoulder. So if you're very, very careful during a horde night, you can manage to not hit this button by shooting at the legs, shooting at his head, the whole 9 yards. But understand whenever they're moving around, the zombies are not frozen like they currently are right now. I have their AI off. This guy will be moving all over the place, flailing, bouncing off of other zombies, falling down, standing up, and somehow or another, he has a tendency of making sure that his button is usually facing the character. So be very, very careful of the button. And then next, we have got the ladies, the screamers. A lot of people call these guys right here Karen. And I can kind of understand why. The screamer is the bane of most base builders' existence. We have got regular version, feral version, and then we've got our irradiated version. And every single one of these ladies will be called in when you have raised too much heat in an area. And by heat is a mathematical number used to basically indicate how much activity is in an area. And the things that raise the heat are campfires, torches, furnaces going, chemistry stations going, candles, all kinds of stuff. Gunshots, turrets, tearing down buildings, scrapping down cars, scrapping appliances, bed frames, the whole 9 yards. All of those things, or collapsing buildings even, will call in a screamer. Now, when a screamer comes in, she's called a scout, and she will go in and she will look at an area that has got a whole lot of activity. She will check it out, and if she finds you, she will scream. That scream initiates a spawn of several different bad guys that are usually, 9 times out of 10, unless something is going wrong inside of your game, that will be geared towards your level. It does not take very long to get overrun with ferals. And she also has the ability to potentially call in another of herself. As you can see, that might be a bit of a difference. If a screamer calls in, say, 5 zombies, and in the process of killing those zombies, you are shooting your gun, tearing things down, things are happening, and then she has called in another one, that second screamer will come in and find you and scream as well, and she could potentially call in 1 or 2 of her sisters, and while you're fighting all of these zombies, you're also creating more heat and calling in more zombies. She shows up a lot around your base, and she shows up a lot whenever you're mining any type of metal. Typically, if you're doing stone, she doesn't show up. If you mine iron or lead or something like that, she will show. So that is all of our zombies and their zombie types. I'll get into more about the zombies' AI and everything else like that very, very soon. Zombie AI is very, very interesting. I am kind of curious as to what exactly is going to happen as soon as I turn all of their AI on. The cops are spitting all over the place. Oh no, my boxes! My boxes! Dude, this is exactly what I was talking about with the facehugger stuff. And there are all of the zombies, and of course the ferals being so much faster. Hey! Why are y'all after that tree? Hey! Now, each screamer, unless this has recently been changed, has 3 screams in her that are activating other screamers. So as long as you could take her out before she screams, you should be cool, but you're wanting a whole lot of experience. Some people make a screamer horde by increasing the heat map and calling in the screamers and allowing them to continue to scream, and then they'll kill off a screamer after she's done 3 screams, because she won't spawn any more in. That's gross, dude. Bleh. But that is zombies in a nutshell. There's a whole lot of other stuff having to do with zombies, zombie pathing, and everything else like that. But that's just kind of coverage on what each of the zombies have, what the zombies do, about where you'll find some of these zombies. Like you'll find the hazmat ones probably inside of hospitals. Obviously, you'll find your nurses and your lab workers in hospitals. You might find them in places that, oh my gosh, you guys are breaking all of the things. Okay, while these guys are basically mowing my lawn, I think that's pretty much it. I just got hot to eat on. We're going to go ahead and call it here. That is an introduction to the zombies. We've also covered the animals in the last video, so you can go back and watch that in the upper left-hand corner. I will drop that for you. We're going to be getting into a little bit more of a, could you please stop screaming? We're going to get into a little bit more of the technicalities of the zombies, and maybe even into a little bit of zombie experimentation. Not that way, you weirdo. I will see you guys next time. You have a wonderful day or night, and you stay shiny. Bye!